Harp on Sports, The Bar, podcast, media, audio, radio, and network. What do we have in store for you on this edition of The Bar? Well, a couple different things. Baseball, basketball, and college football. A little NCAA NIL leverage. NCAA expected to rule Monday, early Tuesday, maybe. Going to have some NIL rule changes. So much to the point where Gene Smith, the athletic director at Ohio State, that's in charge of this special task force to put these NIL rules into effect, expects them to get sued. Oh boy, buckle up for that one. So we're going to look at that. NBA playoffs. And I wrote it down. Never stronger. The NBA has never been stronger. And, you look at the now look at the 80s. I get it was the pinnacle highlight. I'm talking about depth. Ja Morant's hurt now, so Memphis likely out of it. The other 7 teams all still can make the NBA Finals. That's amazing at this stage of the game. When's the last time you got down to the semifinals where you have 8 teams left, and if they're all healthy, any of them can make the finals? So why is that? We're going to tell you why. And also, this is one of these things that's near and dear to me because I wanted them to figure it out. I don't know if they haven't figured out yet. I don't think they have. But are we in store for a baseball breakout? We sit here and we talk about Major League Baseball and remember the lockout? Oh, you forgot about the lockout. That's right. I bring this up because we're 30 games into the season. 30 games in. I know May 1st, we've been playing a month, but we're 30 games in now. To me, you can't really get a gauge until you're 60 games in. But through 30 games of the Major League Baseball season, I think we have some positive notes that can keep us locked in the present and build for the future. All you have to do is look at the teams that are atop and the players that are front and center. So we're going to look at that. I want to start off first with NCAA because it's a big ruling that is expected to come out early this week, Monday, Tuesday. Gene Smith, athletic director at Ohio State, is in charge of this special, or is part of this special task force that is digging away. Digging away at what? Digging away at the NIL, name, image, and likeness. They're trying to figure out what to do. See, this is where major college presidents, major college athletic directors, major programs, they despise the NCAA because it's the authority figure. And they want autonomy. They want to be able to do whatever they want. They're going to be able to do what they want. What's in our best interest? And the more elite the program, the Alabama, the Texases of the world, the Floridas of the world in terms of money and finances, they don't want to share that revenue. They don't want to share that wealth. The NFL only is able to work the way it works is because the Cowboys, the Giants, the Bears, the NFL has just gotten together and they make it work. 32 teams across the platform, they're all printing money, and it works for them. But if Jerry Jones, the Maras, the Rooneys ever got together, the McCaskells, Chicago, the Crafts ever got together and said, come on, man. Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Buffalo. I'm not sharing money with you anymore. It'd collapse. What did collapse? So I was sitting here thinking about this, and the presidents and the athletic directors are in a tough position because if you have a bunch of money, you don't want to change anything because you can pay these guys. Who wants to change things? Well, they know that they have to do something or else the bottom 4 or 5 teams of your conference are going to dry up. You don't want complete parity, but you want some parity. Not complete, but some. So they're going to come up with an idea. And people are going to complain and not like it. But they're trying to put some guardrails on this thing. And guardrails is mentioned about 4 or 5 times in the article that I saw at CBSSports.com about this. And I wrote down a couple of things. The one thing that they're trying to do is track down the boosters that could be paying players, pay for play. Brian Kelly talked about this, and he's got a good point. You have guys that aren't happy at their certain school. Let's say that there's 6 other stars or 6 other big-time players, and they all get NIL deals. So I'm star wide receiver. I look around and go, I'm not getting an NIL deal here. I'm going to enter the portal to find a place where I can get an NIL deal. and then pay for play, the recruitment of players and paying players. Hey, if you come here, we'll give you this big NIL deal. And then you got the universities that are in charge of these collectives that make it even dirtier. It reminds me of, was it the Cubs about 15, 20 years ago that owned, you have like resale tickets now, StubHub, and I get mine from Sports Illustrated, but those are the big ones, right? The secondary ticket market. Well, the Cubs actually bought a building, right? Or rented a building across the street from Wrigley, and they were selling tickets to themselves and selling them at a higher price. You're dirty, but yeah, okay. Well, to me, if you are the NCAA, here's your chance to get some teeth back. And you've got some ADs, and you've got the blessing of some things here. See, everybody, certain schools don't like the NCAA, don't like the NCAA. It's the same people that say, I get defund the police, defund the police. Hey, somebody's breaking into my house. Where are the police? Lawlessness. You see these videos in certain cities where people are just going into like it's always a Walgreens or a CVS and filling their bags full of stuff and leaving. That's what NIL is. This is what this has become. So what are they going to do? Well, some of the suggestions are if they catch you doing this as a booster, they're going to disassociate you from the program. This is the way to do it. And the NCAA knows by doing it this way, they can rein you in as a school as well. Let's say if you have a big booster, and I'm just going to use an example, although it's not fair because he hasn't done anything wrong, at least as far as we know, but I know he gives a bunch of money. Jerry Jones to Arkansas because he's one of the more wealthy guys I can think of. And there's guys all over the place, all over the country that do things like this. I mean, T. Boo Pickens for the longest time at Oklahoma State before he passed away. There's big boosters everywhere. So, Mark Cuban, Indiana, John Mellencamp, IU. I'm just thinking of some big names out there just as an example. And you know who they are. Well, they catch you as a booster, paying players. They're going to disassociate you from the university. That means what? You can't be around the athletic program anymore. So if you're a big booster and you're given $5 million a year, was it Red McCombs that used to own the Vikings? It was the big Texas booster. Spent millions of dollars a year, University of Texas athletic programs. If the NCAA catches you and tells the university, look, we're going to hit you with lack of institutional control unless you get booster away from you. Taking the booster away takes $5 million away a year. See where we're going? So this is actually good. They actually have some guardrails in place here. Now, the thing is, what happens when they break some rules? Well, it's a level 1 violation. Okay, bowl bans. Okay, here's what you need to do. And here's where the NCAA, really, if you're the NCAA, you can do this right now. With this going on, we catch a booster. Now that NIL exists, we catch boosters in your school, paying athletes to come to your school. We're going to nail the booster with a 5-year ban. Look, if you can give coaches show cause penalties, you can give boosters penalties like this. So you nail the booster, you disassociate from them, and if you find out that the school had anything to do with it, you've got to give the schools like 3-year bowl bans. You've got to make it sting. It can't be just one, because every team, look at LSU, look at the trouble LSU's in. They wouldn't sacrifice that national championship with Joe Burrow for anything. You got to find that line between crippling SMU the way they did and what they did to LSU. You got to find some line in between there. But at least there's something in place now. And if you imagine all the wealthy boosters and the guys that show up with their cocktails and their, yes, I'm sitting in the presidential suite. That dude gets caught giving players money, pay for play, and the NCAA comes along and tells the school, you associate yourself with that person, you're not going to get to play in a bowl game until you do. So now you have to disassociate, you have to give them their money back. Good. You're going to find out a lot about people. This is what apparently they're going to announce on Monday and Tuesday. You're going to find a lot about the schools if they don't like this. Well, this is ridiculous. If the NCAA comes out and says, we're going to do A, B, and C, and you're complaining, well, what do you want them to do? I kind of like it. So they, again, What we're expected to hear, Gene Smith, athletic director at Ohio State, NIL, trying to get this thing under control. They catch a booster. Pay for play. They're going to get this in line here a little bit, at least on the outskirts. We catch you doing it. We are going to nail you. We're going to make you disassociate from the booster. Going to cost you tens of millions of dollars. If it's a guy like T. Boone Pickens that gives $100 million, now T. Boone's gone now, but you get the idea. So this will be interesting to see how they handle this, because they've got to get some rails in. I still think you should set a cap limit, $300,000 per team. However they want to divvy it up, it's up to them. However they want to divvy it up, you can go higher, lower, just like a TV contract that's negotiated. The SEC gets a certain payout per team. Same thing here. Collectives, all big pot. You can pay a certain amount. And everybody gets the same. Vanderbilt gets $300,000. Ole Miss gets $300,000. Whatever it is. Everybody wants to be fair, right? Come on, call it fair. Everybody wants an even number of fouls. Everybody wants a fair number of penalties called. Can't money be fair too? Salary caps seems to work in the NFL. So there you go on that front. Okay. A little NIL leverage for you here, as it looks like they're going to get some things done. Oh, by the way, cut scholarships, lack of institutional control. You got to stiffen the penalties for people that get caught doing this. You got to come out and say you get caught doing this, like disassociated booster, can't give you any money to the school anymore, 3-year bowl ban. You just have to. Okay. Shifting gears. NBA postseason. NBA slogan. It's fantastic. I was thinking about it before John Morant got hurt. It may be the most wide open NBA postseason at this level that I can ever remember. When's the last time you remember going into the conference semifinals, looking around and going, any of these 8 teams can make it? Now, will they? No. I think Golden State's on a different level, and they're starting to stretch their legs a little bit. And the fact that John Morant's hurt. Okay. But Phoenix and Dallas, that series is tied up. 2-2, right? Joel Embiid gets his face broken. They look hapless the first 2 games against the Heat. They come back and win 2 in a row. And Milwaukee and Boston, even though Milwaukee's up 2-1, Boston, they're right there in the thick of things too. It's any of those 4 teams in the East can get there. I don't think Memphis can in the West. Golden State, I don't know if Dallas could beat Golden State, but Phoenix, I mean, it's wide open. For the longest time, people complain about the NBA. What's been the knock about the NBA? Oh, it's this super team building. You know, when you're younger and your parents say it's going to be okay, this is going to figure itself out. It's going to work itself out. You keep going to the gym, you keep exercising, you're going to lose weight, stay on your diet, keep grinding, you're applying for jobs, keep grinding, you're going to get there. You're going to get there. You're going to get this. Studying. I had a terrible time with trigonometry and calculus. Oh, God. I had to get a tutor in college because I struggled with it so much. That's the hardest B I've ever got in my life, calculus. Oh, that class was a nightmare. But I did learn how orbits around planets work, which is kind of cool. I don't know if I could still do that. But, again, as I sit here and I look at it and the NBA and where we are, and I think it's pretty awesome right now. I looked at this today. I wanted to look this up because why is it? You know, these big 3 and how it's going to work. It's like, it doesn't work that way. The Heat put it together and they won a couple titles. And then you saw Durant join an already championship team in Golden State. And, Kawhi went to the Raptors for that year. But we're on the verge, right? Milwaukee won last year. The Lakers won the year before. The Raptors won the year before. Golden State won the year before. The NBA in the 80s, the Celtics or the Lakers were in the finals every year. And in the 90s, the Bulls went 6 out of 8 years. The Rockets won 2 in there. The NBA got itself into a lull where you saw the same teams all the time. Not seeing it now. I mean, you could have an NBA finals this year that could be Philadelphia versus Dallas. At the beginning, I said Golden State and Philly. Like Golden State to win it. We'll see where we are. I feel a little bit better about that after Philly knotted the series up. But no, here's what's happened in the NBA. LeBron and the older guard, they're aging out. They just are. They're aging out here a little bit. LeBron's still pretty amazing at 37, 38, whatever he is now. But the older guard is aging out here a little bit. And I wrote this down because I want to give you some comparisons here. You know, Joel Embiid, he's more athletic, but you have guys that are young stars that are now becoming superstars. That's what's going on in the NBA now. Young stars are developing into these superstars. Joel Embiid is becoming Patrick Ewing. He is. Joel Embiid now, where he is, he's more athletic than Patrick, which is saying something because Patrick was ridiculous. Joel Embiid right now is where Patrick Ewing and the Knicks were in the early 90s. Now they're probably a better basketball team. I don't know if they're a better basketball team. Embiid's probably better than Patrick, but it's close. But Joel Embiid has become Patrick Ewing. Giannis has become Tim Duncan. He's that guy now. He is. He's become Tim Duncan. Now, I know it's a little bit different position. He's a little bit bigger, thick-wise. And they have a little bit different game, but Giannis has become Tim. This is all that's happened in the last 18 to 24 months, coming out of the pandemic, coming out of the bubble. Giannis has become Tim Duncan. Joel Embiid now has become what? Joel Embiid has become Patrick Ewing. John Morant has become Allen Iverson. Now he's more explosive and can dunk more, but John Morant's become Allen Iverson. Yes. Not quite there yet, but he's becoming that. I wrote down a couple more. Luka, and we're not there yet, and I don't want everybody to go, oh, come on, Seth. Luka's a young Larry Bird. Now, Larry was a forward. I get it. Luka's a guard, although Luka's same height as he is. I mean, guards are like 6'6", 6'7" now. But Luka's become Larry Bird. He's becoming Larry Bird. That's what's going on here. These guys are, you guys, these are 23, 24, 25. They're like, oh, here we go. You have that new generation starting to hit their groove. 8, 9 years ago, it was the Steph Currys, the James Hardens, the Kevin Durants. That, 8, 9 years ago, those guys were hitting it. Now those guys are getting older. And this group is hitting it. This group's hitting it. I wrote down a couple more of who's becoming who. I just think this is one of those things. Steph Curry, to me, Steph Curry isn't becoming, because the Golden State's their own little beast here with Clay and everybody. Steph Curry is not becoming any, because he's already there. What Steph is doing now this year, as you start to look around, Steph's looking around and saying, you know what, for the longest time, Jordan had 6 titles, and, we completely erased Bill Russell. And they're all 6, the number. We erased Bill Russell. He's got double digits. Jordan won 6, Jordan won 6. And what happened? Kobe won 5. Duncan won 5. LeBron's at 4. And everybody's like, oh, LeBron catch. Well, LeBron, he'll catch Kobe and he'll catch Duncan. Will he ever catch Michael? 6. Golden State wins. Steph Curry's 4th. Steph Curry's looking around saying, you know what? You guys are all debating Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, Duncan. And I'm going to sneak up and get him. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be, because we talk about how good Steph is and how his ability to shoot and what he's able to do, and the MVP, and he's in his 30s now, so people kind of lost track of it a little bit. Wouldn't that be something if Steph Curry and Golden State won a couple more titles here, and it was he, not Kobe, not Duncan, not LeBron, if it were Steph that tied Jordan with 6? And then that debate really gets fun, doesn't it? Because there's no doubt the West was tougher. No doubt the West was tougher. Wasn't it? Just, I know, a little bit different. A little bit different. Better shooter. Point to shoot. So, at least that's where I am with the NBA playoffs. But it's been great. It's been enjoyable. And these series are fantastic. And what it's done is the thing that people complained about were the building of the super teams, of all these guys getting together. The Nets got together, put their thing together with Kyrie, Durant, and Simmons didn't work out, or Harden didn't work out, so Simmons comes in. It was a disaster. It was a disaster. Kyrie Irving made it that. Then we find out that the Lakers are thinking about trading for Kyrie Irving. Oh my God, what a nightmare that is. Could you imagine? Oh my God, what that would have been out there. But I think about what happened in LA with, Anthony Davis and LeBron and what they tried to do, and it didn't work. Not this year, it didn't. No, it didn't work. So everybody that didn't despise those things that were attempted to be put together, Although I don't know why, because the Bulls did it when they added Rodman in the 90s, and other teams have done it too by bringing in stars. It's one of those things I kind of look at and say, okay, well, whatever. The Lakers didn't it, didn't they, when they traded a couple pieces away and brought in Paul Gasol? They tried to do it with Kobe and Chris Paul. But I think that if you don't like what the big three stood for, at least the attempted building of these super teams, and they fizzled out and you still complain about the NBA, you're just that guy or gal. 7 of the 8 teams have a chance to get to the finals. I don't know if they all have a chance to win it, but they got a chance to get there. Only one not being Memphis, and that's because Ja's hurt. If he were healthy. If you're sleeping on the NBA, you're sleeping on something special. Speaking of sleeping on things, you still mad about baseball's lockout? Oh, you forgot about it, didn't you? I bring it up because of this. Why? Because we're at the 30-game threshold for baseball. 30 games in now. The airing of this podcast, the majority of teams in baseball just played their 30th game. Now, why 30 games? People like to measure baseball in months. Okay, the first month of the year is over. Remember, they started a little bit late because of the work stoppage. Oh, no, you don't. You forgot about that, didn't you? But we're 30 games in now. To me, I'm a firm believer. At the 60-game mark, you kind of have an idea. The 90-game mark is when you hit the All-Star break. So here at the 30-game mark, I got a little bit of an idea. The Red Sox are terrible. I guess that's the big disappointing story in baseball because they were in the postseason ALCS and they're just a nightmare this year. But I wrote down baseball. I don't want to say it's breakout time, but baseball is in a feel-good spot right now. Let's look right now, 30 games in, who your division leaders are. Who are they in the American League? Are they the Yankees? Aaron Judge, young crop, hitting the ball. I mean, it's just good gracious. Getting good pitching. Yankees. By the way, the Mets in the National League got 2 New York teams in first place. The Twins. Brian Buxton. You had this guy that all this hype, and he finally gets to the bigs, and he's on pace to hit 50 home runs. So the Twins. Now you may sit there and say, "Oh, admit it." No, that's a big deal that the Twins and Brian Buxton, young talent. American League Central, Brian Buxton, young talent. Aaron Judge, young talent, New York. The American League West, Mike Trout, Angels. Shohei Ohtani, first place. The big thing we talk about the Angels, they made the postseason once the last 7 years. They're in first place. That's big news. Stars being around. Going to see them more. And then what else do you have? Then you have the Rays, who are a playoff team right now. They'd be the wild card, one of the wild card teams. And who's the other wild card team in the American League? The Astros. So the Astros, the Rays, and your division leaders are, I know the playoff structure has changed a little bit, but your division leaders right now in the American League are the Yankees, the Twins, and the Angels. So Ohtani, Trout, Buxton, Aaron Judge, and all those teams around. By the way, Justin Verlander's 3-1. He wins 20 games this year. He's what? 247-ish? He's 39 at the end of the year. Can he win 50 games? He'd have to win 35 games after the age of 40 to get to 300. See, Justin Verlander's a guy that I know he got hurt, but when COVID hit, probably cost Justin Verlander 10 to 15 wins. Okay. So that's that. And then just the young stars, first place. And then you look over in the National League. What do you have? You have the Dodgers, Mookie Betts, Dodgers just on a different playing field. Padres, they're a wild card team, but Tatis is hurt. The Pods are a wild card team, and Tatis is on the 60-day disabled list, so the Padres are successful without Tatis. He'll come back. The Brewers, Yelich and those guys. The Brewers are in first place. The Mets, Max Scherzer has made the Mets stable. And Syndergaard hasn't even pitched yet. So Scherzer has stabilized the Mets. And your wild cards are the Cardinals and like I said, the Padres. Young talent. Now, the Padres a little bit older with Yachty and those guys. So I get it. Wainwright's a little bit older. But you look at Kershaw and the Dodgers. Here's Clayton Kershaw, who's 4-0. That's atop almost the big statistical categories in the American League as a pitcher. You have Max Scherzer, who's 4-1, anchoring the Mets. So you got older pitchers. Verlander, Scherzer. Come on, Seth. Verlander, Scherzer, and Kershaw are combined, what, 10-1? 10-2. No, 11-2. Scherzer, Kershaw, Verlander, 11-2. So there's the older guard. And then you have the young guard, the Buxtons, the Trouts of the world. Bryce Harper's on pace to hit 40 home runs again. So, you got these guys. And Pete Alonso going to hit 40 home runs for the Mets. So you've got this young crop of guys that are figuring it out in good markets. Now, look, baseball benefits when the Cubs are good and the Red Sox are good. I get it. The Reds are awful and terrible. I hope they do Joey Votto right. If Joey Votto wants to go somewhere, they give him that opportunity. But baseball has this gigantic crop of young stars that are now pushing their teams up and over the top. I should over the top, but making them relevant day in and day out. But the biggest development 30 games into the baseball season is a guy that's been the best baseball player in the game for 6 or 7 years. Overall, Mike Trout, they're in first place. Like, oh, it's not. I know, we got a long way to go. But baseball feels like it maybe have a little bit of a breakthrough here. A little bit. Harp On Sports, the Bar Podcast Media Audio Radio Network. Follow, share, like, subscribe at Harp On Sports Twitter, at Harp On Sports Instagram. Also, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Auditory Route, Harp On Sports, the Facebook page, Harp On Sports, the YouTube channel, and of course, harponsports.com. Remember, stay clean, stay focused, stay strong. Frankenstein. Have fun with your friends.